My name is Emma Carter. I'm 31 years old, and for 11 years, I believed I knew exactly who my husband was. I knew the way he took his coffee every morning. I knew he hated crowded restaurants and loved quiet Sunday drives. I knew he always checked the front door twice before going to bed. I knew the little smile he made whenever he was trying to hide something, or at least I thought I did. His name was Michael, and for most of our marriage, I considered him my safest place. We had met at a charity event when I was 20, married 3 years later, and built what everyone around us considered a beautiful life. We had a comfortable house in a quiet American suburb, successful careers, a small circle of friends, and enough memories to fill several lifetimes. And then there was Sarah. Sarah had been my best friend since college. She was the person I called when I was happy, when I was angry, when I needed advice, or when I simply wanted someone to laugh with. She had been at my wedding. She had helped me choose my dress. She had held my hand when my father was sick. She knew almost everything about me. That was why, when Michael told me he had to take a business trip, I didn't question him. He said it would last about a week. He said there was a problem with a major client in Colorado, and his company needed him there in person. I kissed him goodbye on a Monday morning and told him to call me when he landed. He smiled, hugged me, and said, "I love you." I believed him. 3 days later, I discovered he had never gone to Colorado. He had gone to California. And he wasn't alone. Sarah was with him. At first, I thought there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe she had been invited because of her work. Maybe the trip had changed. Maybe Michael had forgotten to tell me. I kept finding excuses for two people I trusted more than anyone else in the world. But when I saw the photograph that changed everything, I knew something was wrong. The picture came from a mutual friend's social media account. It showed a beautiful restaurant overlooking the ocean in Santa Barbara. Michael was standing near the railing, and Sarah was beside him. They weren't touching. They weren't kissing. There was nothing obviously romantic about the photograph, but the caption said, "Some people deserve a second chance. Glad to see these two finally getting theirs." I stared at that sentence for almost a minute. A second chance? Finally? I called Michael. He didn't answer. I called again. Straight to voicemail. I called Sarah. Same thing. I sat on my kitchen floor with my phone in my hand, trying to understand what I was looking at. I could have confronted them immediately. I could have driven to the airport. I could have called every person we knew. But something stopped me. It wasn't fear. It was instinct. Something about that photograph felt bigger than an affair. I knew Michael. If he were cheating, he would be nervous. He would probably over-explain everything. But this was different. He had disappeared for 15 days with my best friend, and somehow he seemed completely prepared for me to find out. That frightened me more than the possibility of betrayal. I didn't tell anyone what I had discovered. Instead, I started paying attention. The next morning, I checked our shared credit card account. There were hotel charges, restaurant charges, rental car payments, and one unusual payment of $12,000 to a private legal consulting firm. I stared at the number. $12,000. For what? I had never heard of the firm. I searched the company online. It specialized in asset protection, private investigations, and complex civil disputes. My heart began pounding. Why would my husband need an asset protection lawyer while supposedly traveling for business? I checked the date of the payment. It had been made 2 days before he left. Then I noticed something even stranger. The payment had not come from Michael's business account. It had come from our joint household account. That meant he had used money that belonged to both of us. I wanted to confront him. Instead, I waited. I spent the next 11 days pretending everything was normal. Michael called every evening. He told me about meetings. He told me the weather was beautiful. He asked what I had eaten for dinner. And every time I heard his voice, I wondered how easily someone could lie to the person they had promised to love forever. I didn't tell him about the photograph. I didn't tell him about the legal payment. I simply listened. On the 10th night, he said, "I'll be home soon. I miss you." I closed my eyes. I miss you too. After the call ended, I sat alone in the dark. I wasn't crying anymore. Something inside me had gone completely still. I started researching. Not Michael, the legal firm. I found the name of one attorney connected to the company. His name was David Reynolds. I searched that name with Michael's company. Nothing. Then I searched it with Sarah's name. Again, nothing. I almost gave up when I noticed a business registration connected to an old company Sarah had once worked for. That company had been dissolved 6 years earlier, but one of its former executives was listed as David Reynolds' client. The executive's name was Daniel Carter, my husband's older brother. I froze. Daniel had died 7 years earlier. His death had been ruled an accident after his car went off a mountain road during a storm. Michael had always told me that Daniel was driving too fast. He had never wanted to discuss it. But now I was looking at a lawyer connected to Daniel, Sarah, and my husband. I went into our attic and opened an old storage box. Michael kept very few things from his brother, but I remembered seeing an envelope once. I searched for hours. Finally, I found it. Inside was an old photograph of Daniel, Michael, and Sarah standing together outside a college building. I had seen the picture before, but this time I noticed something I had never noticed. Sarah was wearing a silver necklace with a small compass pendant. I remembered that necklace because I had seen it recently. Sarah was wearing the exact same necklace when she came to my house 3 months earlier. I stared at the photograph. Why had Sarah kept a necklace from 20 years ago? Why was she connected to Daniel? And why was my husband paying a lawyer connected to his dead brother? I called my mother. I didn't tell her everything. I simply asked if she remembered anything unusual about Daniel's death. She hesitated. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "Emma, your father always thought there was more to that accident." I sat down. "What do you mean?" She sighed. "Your father told me that Michael had changed his story several times. At first he said Daniel had been drinking. Later he said Daniel was exhausted. Then he said Daniel had been upset about a business problem. Your father didn't believe him." I asked why nobody had investigated. She said the police had. The case had been closed. There was no evidence of foul play. I thanked her and ended the call. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, Michael texted me, "Home in 4 days, can't wait to see you." I stared at the message. I typed, "Me too," then deleted it. Instead, I wrote, "Have a safe trip back." 4 days later, Michael came home. Sarah came with him. They arrived together in the same rental car. I watched from the upstairs window as they unloaded their luggage. Sarah hugged him before walking toward my front door. I stood in the hallway waiting. When the door opened, Sarah smiled as if nothing had happened. "Emma," she said, "I missed you so much." I looked at her. "Did you?" She paused for half a second. "Of course." Michael stepped inside. "Hey, babe." He leaned in to kiss me. I turned my face slightly and his lips touched my cheek instead. He noticed. "Everything okay?" I smiled. "I'm just tired." He put his suitcase down. Sarah immediately started talking about the trip. She told me about the beaches, the restaurants, the hotel, and the weather. She spoke so naturally that for a moment I almost questioned myself. Then Michael said, "We should tell her." Sarah looked at him sharply. "Not yet." I heard it. They both realized I had heard it. Michael cleared his throat. "I mean, we should tell you about the business situation." I smiled. "Sure." That evening, they left. I watched their car disappear down the street. Then I opened my laptop and searched for the Santa Barbara Hotel. I found a photo gallery from the week they had stayed there. There was a picture from a private event. Michael and Sarah were standing with a group of people. One man caught my attention. David Reynolds, the attorney. I zoomed in. He was talking to Michael while Sarah stood beside them. I saved the photograph. Then I called the hotel and pretended I had lost a piece of jewelry. The woman at the front desk asked for my reservation details. I gave Michael's name. She told me she couldn't provide information. I thanked her and hung up. I wasn't looking for proof of an affair anymore. I was looking for the truth. The next morning I received an email from an unknown address. It contained one sentence. "If you want to know why they went to California, check Daniel's old insurance file." There was an attachment, I opened it. It was a scanned document from an insurance company. Daniel had held a life insurance policy worth $2 million. The beneficiary listed was Michael. I already knew that. What I didn't know was that the policy had been disputed. A handwritten note on the document said, "Claim delayed pending investigation." The date was 2 weeks before Daniel died. I stared at the screen. Someone had been investigating Daniel before his death. Why? I searched through old emails and eventually found something else. 7 years earlier, Sarah had sent me a message saying she was sorry about Daniel. I had forgotten about it, but now I reread it. "Emma, I'm so sorry. Michael will need you now more than ever. Please don't ask too many questions. Some things are better left alone." I felt sick. Why had she written that? What did she know? That afternoon, I called Sarah and asked her to come over. She arrived 20 minutes later. I poured 2 glasses of water and sat across from her. "Sarah, I need you to answer one question." She looked nervous. "Okay." I placed the old photograph of Daniel, Michael, and her on the table. "Why were you wearing this necklace when you met Daniel?" Her face went pale. "What?" "The compass necklace. You wore it in this photograph, and you were wearing it 3 months ago." She stared at the picture. Then she looked at me. "Emma, where did you get this?" "My husband's old things." She stood up. "I need to go." I grabbed her wrist. "No, you don't." She looked terrified. "Emma, you don't understand." "Then explain." She sat down slowly, her eyes filled with tears. "Daniel didn't die because of an accident." My entire body went cold. "What?" "He was going to expose Michael." I couldn't speak. Sarah looked down. Daniel discovered that Michael had been moving money from their father's company. He confronted him. Michael promised he would return it. Daniel didn't believe him. I whispered, "How much?" "Almost $600,000. I stared at her. "And the accident?" Sarah shook her head. "I don't know who caused it. But Daniel called me the night before he died. He told me he was afraid." I stood up. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because Michael threatened me." "What did he threaten?" "He said if I told anyone he would destroy my career, my family, everything." I backed away from her. "So you stayed silent for 7 years?" She started crying. I was scared. I wanted to hate her. Part of me did, but another part understood that fear could make people do terrible things. Then I asked, "Why did you go to California with him?" She wiped her eyes. "Because he found out that Daniel left something behind." "What?" "A recording." I felt my heart stop. "Where is it?" "We don't know." "Then why did you go?" She looked at me. "Because David Reynolds found out the recording might still exist." I sat down. "And what does that have to do with me?" Sarah hesitated. "Everything." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. "Daniel left this with me 6 years ago." I opened it. Inside was a key and a handwritten note. The note said, "If Michael ever tries to take Emma's life apart, give her this." I stared at the words. My name was written clearly. "What does the key open?" I asked. Sarah said, "A storage unit." I looked at her. "Where?" She gave me an address. It was 40 minutes away. We drove there together. The storage facility was old and nearly empty. The key opened a small unit at the back. Inside were boxes, old computers, documents, and photographs. There was also a black recorder. I pressed the button. Daniel's voice filled the room. "If you're hearing this, something happened to me." I covered my mouth. Sarah started crying. Daniel continued. "Michael believes he can control everyone around him. He thinks money can erase consequences. But I have proof." Then he mentioned a bank account, a transfer history, and a recording of a conversation with Michael. I listened to every second. The recording didn't prove Michael had caused Daniel's death, but it proved Michael had stolen money and had threatened Daniel. It also revealed something I never expected. Michael had been using my identity for years. Several accounts had been opened under my name. Loans had been taken out. Money had been transferred. I felt dizzy. "Why?" I whispered. Sarah said, "Because he planned to disappear." I looked at her. "Disappear?" She nodded. "He wanted to leave the country. He needed someone else to take responsibility for the money." I understood then why he had taken the 15-day trip. It wasn't an affair, it was preparation. California wasn't the destination. It was the beginning. He had been meeting lawyers, moving money, and preparing to leave, and I was supposed to be the person left behind. I called a lawyer of my own. I gave him copies of everything. He told me not to confront Michael until we understood the full situation. For the first time, I felt calm. Not because I wasn't afraid, but because I finally knew what I was dealing with. 2 days later, Michael came home. He walked into the kitchen, smiling. "You seem different." I looked at him. "Do I?" "Yeah." He kissed my forehead. "Everything okay?" I smiled. "Perfect." He sat down. "Good, because I have something to tell you." I waited. "I've been thinking, maybe we should sell the house." My heart sank. "Why?" "We could start over somewhere else." I looked into his eyes. "Where?" "Maybe Europe." I almost laughed. "Europe?" "Yeah, somewhere quiet." I nodded. "Sounds nice." He smiled. "I knew you'd understand." Then I asked the question I had been waiting to ask since the day I saw the photograph. "Michael, why did you take Sarah to California when you knew Daniel's recording might still exist?" He froze. Completely. His smile disappeared. His eyes changed. For several seconds he didn't breathe. "What did you just say?" I repeated the question. "Why did you take Sarah to California to find Daniel's recording?" He stood up so quickly that his chair fell backward. "Who told you?" I didn't answer. He stared at me. Then he said something that confirmed everything. "Sarah." I smiled sadly. "No. You just did." His face went pale. I had recorded the conversation. My lawyer had instructed me to do nothing reckless, but I wanted him to reveal what he knew. He started walking toward me. "Emma, listen to me." "I'm listening." "You don't understand what you're getting involved in." "Then explain." "Daniel was unstable." "That's your explanation?" "He was going to destroy everything." "So you stole money from the company?" He said nothing. "You used my identity?" Silence. "You took Sarah to California to find evidence?" He looked at me. "I was trying to protect us." I laughed bitterly. "You were trying to protect yourself." He reached for my hand. "Emma, I love you." I pulled away. "You don't love me." He looked devastated. "I do." "You just loved the version of me you thought you could control." He lowered his head. I told him the police already had copies of the documents. His face changed again. "You called the police?" "Not yet." He looked relieved. "Then we can fix this." I shook my head. "No. We can tell the truth." The investigation that followed lasted months. Michael was eventually charged with financial crimes related to the money he had stolen and the fraudulent accounts he had created. The evidence from Daniel's recording reopened questions about his death, although the case remained complicated, and investigators never proved Michael had caused the accident. Sarah cooperated with investigators. She admitted that she had stayed silent for years. She lost my friendship, but she helped uncover the truth. As for me, I filed for divorce. I moved into a small apartment across town and started rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy. There were nights when I couldn't sleep. There were mornings when I woke up and forgot for a second that my marriage was over, but slowly I started feeling like myself again. 6 months later, I received a letter from Sarah. I almost threw it away. Instead, I opened it. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She simply wrote, "I know I don't deserve to be your friend again, but I want you to know that the strongest thing I saw during all of this wasn't the evidence. It was the moment you looked Michael in the eyes and refused to be afraid of him." I folded the letter and put it away. Some relationships don't need to be repaired. Some chapters don't need another ending. They simply need to stay closed. A year later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment watching the sunset. I thought about the woman I had been when Michael left for that trip. I had believed my husband was my safest place. I had believed my best friend would never betray me. I had believed that knowing someone for years meant you truly knew them. Now, I understood something different. Trust isn't built by years. It's built by choices. And sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who teach you the hardest lessons. People later asked me why I didn't expose Michael the moment I discovered he had lied about the trip. The answer was simple. Because if I had reacted emotionally, I might never have discovered the truth. I would have accused him of cheating. He would have denied it. Sarah would have lied, and the real story might have disappeared forever. Instead, I waited. I listened. I asked one question. And when they froze, I finally knew I had found the truth. That question didn't destroy my marriage. The lies did. The question simply opened the door. And when I walked through it, I discovered something I never expected. My husband hadn't taken my best friend on a secret trip because he wanted another woman. He took her because both of them knew something about the past that could destroy the future he had built. For 15 days, they thought they were hiding the truth from me. They thought I was sitting at home waiting for my husband to return. They thought I was the wife who knew nothing. But they were wrong. I wasn't waiting for him. I was waiting for the truth. And when he finally walked through our front door, I asked one simple question. The moment he froze, I knew everything I needed to know. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't chase him. I simply looked at the man I had loved for 11 years and realized that the person I had been trying to save had never been the victim. It had always been me. And that was the day I stopped trying to save my marriage and started saving myself. Today, I don't hate Michael. Hate would mean he still controls a part of me. I don't hate Sarah either. I simply remember what happened and refuse to forget the lesson. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't exposing someone. Sometimes it is walking away with your dignity intact and building a life they can never take from you. I lost a husband. I lost a best friend. I lost the future I thought I was going to have, but I gained something I had forgotten I possessed: myself. And if there's one thing I would tell anyone listening to my story, it's this. Never ignore the feeling that something isn't right. You don't have to accuse anyone. You don't have to create a scene. Just pay attention, ask questions, and when the truth finally appears, have the courage to accept it. Because sometimes the person who leaves you with nothing is accidentally giving you the freedom to become someone stronger. Michael thought he was taking a 15-day trip to control his future. Sarah thought she was helping him bury the past. But when they came home, I asked one question they never expected, and that one question changed all three of our lives forever.